Legacy means the imprint, the positive or negative, hopefully positive imprint and impact that I leave on the earth after I'm here. And it doesn't, for some of us, that may mean it needs to be, I accomplish things that get me a monument or a new public library, right? Named after me, or event center.
Welcome to Money, Legacy, and Her, the podcast where ambition meets action and wealth is built with receipts. I'm your host, Darice Rene. Every week, we break down the real money moves, mindset shifts, and bold strategies ambitious women need to create legacy on their terms. This isn't hustle culture, it's power moves only. Let's get into it. What if the biggest thing standing between you and the next level of wealth isn't your job, your income, or even the economy? What if it's whether you're willing to bet on yourself? Today's guest, Aszure Gray, has spent her career helping organizations grow, leading sales, and now advising founders on how to build businesses that last. But what I love most about this conversation isn't sales. It's what it takes to trust yourself enough to build something bigger. We talk about confidence, community, navigating career transitions, and why she teaches her daughter that she's not a princess, she's a queen in training. If you're a high-achieving woman who's wondering whether it's time for your next bold move, this episode is for you. I'm Darice Rene, and this is Money, Legacy, and Her. So, let's start off the conversation. Let me ask you your first question. When people meet you today, they see a confident consultant, a sales expert, and a business owner. But confidence is usually built, not born, a chapter of your story that is foundational for where you are today.
Ooh, there's actually a few. I would say what really was the first transition from where I was to starting to become who I am now was back in my late 20s, maybe early 30s, when I was living in Louisville, Kentucky. Things were not going well. I hated my job. All I had was one friend and my dog. And my friend at the time said, just come home. Just come home. And I looked and I found a job online, which was kind of new back then, I think. And that is when I joined the team at Advisa in 2006. And that was really that was the catalyst for moving my life into the direction that it's in now. And so I will forever be grateful and have nothing but wonderful things to say about that organization, which is still doing well and flying high now. But they were my launching pad, and I was there for just shy of 14 years. So it was a great run.
Okay. You spent almost 14 years in one organization. So, I mean, what you gained from that? What kept you there 14 years?
I loved what I did. So the work really involved leadership development consulting. And so really helping business owners, executives, leadership teams to determine how to successfully manage their people, select people for the right roles, and of course, meet people in a place where you can. One of the phrases we always used was people behave in ways that meet their needs. And so being able to understand what someone's needs were was extremely helpful in building trust, rapport, and the level of trust that you need in order to take risks within a business and depend and rely on your coworkers, for your clients to trust you, all of those things. And so it was a very important skill to develop it personally, and then also to help my clients develop that once I had my footing, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I can see a lot of gain for you from that. So what did that knowledge lead you to next? What did that next jump look like?
It led me to what many times since I've thought, was that self-sabotage? I don't really know, because as you mentioned, 14 years is a long time to be in one organization. And I started to get antsy. And I thought, and I originally thought when I started, I'll probably retire here. But then I started to get a little antsy. I got married, I had kids, and my life started to change. And I thought I might want something different. And I became a little antsy, looked for something else, but I did have people ask me, are you crazy? You're leaving a position like this. So it's something that I'm really glad I did, because I don't know if it happened now that I would have the confidence to make that jump, but I did at the time. And that's one of the things that having a really good position with a good company with good leadership can help build that confidence for taking that next step.
Yeah. And I want to frame up taking that next step because it's a little bit more nuanced than that, right? Taking that step also requires that you're trusting yourself there, because that's risk, right? I guess the thing is, like, anymore, people leave companies more often than they did way back in the day. And you're proof with spent 14 years in a company before you left. So there had to be that there was a risk. You took a risk, and that risk was shown in that you decided to trust yourself for that. Right. Did you
Bet
have,
on yourself.
yeah. Did you have people who were like, that's the craziest thing? Anybody close to you who pushed back?
I had an older gentleman that I worked with for obviously many years. He was the first consultant, so he was there the entire time I was. And he did literally look at me and say, have you lost your mind? Which was understandable, because considering it, again, it was a great position and he'd been there a very long time. He was from a different generation. So that, I think it's the silent generation where you find something good and you just don't leave because of all of the tumult and just opportunity for things to go completely wrong.
Yeah.
And they did in some ways. And in other ways, they've been a beautiful blessing to me. So many things I've learned, other people I've met, other skills I've developed. So it's something that you have to sit and really think about. And I think one of the things that helps with doing that is building a personal board of advisors. You need to have people in your life that can help you strategically look at the big picture. Are there things that I could potentially be missing? You need someone who can be a technical advisor, right? When I need to know about real estate, I'm not Googling, I'm calling you. And number 3 is to have a personal advisor. You may even need 1 or 2, but someone who truly knows you and will tell you the truth, right? If you're not going to tell me that I've got lipstick on my teeth, then we're not really friends. And so that's something that is important to have in that space to help you make that kind of a leap.
Yeah. And I hear that all the time. And I want to dig into that because you and I both met because of our community, because we take networking and influence and leadership extremely important when it comes to ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about, so we met, I think this is important to share. We met while we were both working in similar roles for different companies in different industries. So I would liken us to chief revenue officers. In my company, I was responsible for 100% of the revenue that came in the company. You're probably at a high percentage as well. We're closers. And we met within our company. We were probably the only brown-skinned people in C-suite leadership in our companies. So we gravitated towards each other. And at the time, we leaned on each other. We looked for each other in the room. I remember promoting all the time because you're a baddie. And we would have lunch. We would commiserate together and we would talk strategy. No, how can I meet them? And what did that do for you? I know what it did for me. It was incredible. And look at all these years later. But what was that like for you?
That is something that I am very used to. It was something that when you know and when you don't. And so it can be much more challenging when you haven't actually had to understand and become really comfortable with being the only, whatever the case may be, insert X here in the room. And I will never forget, I went to an event for a prospective client and I was going to be speaking. And so I knew what the room dynamics might look like. So I decided I would stand out as much as possible. And I had an orange dress that I picked specifically for that event so that everyone would remember the woman in the orange dress. And so not about clothing, but it's just about how do you embrace something that could potentially be challenging and instead say, I'm going to lean into it. And that sometimes it'll go wrong. You got to take the risk. But again, betting on my own intuition, my own experience, and as well as wisdom that other people have shared with me, and bringing all of those together and synthesizing those to assess, should I or shouldn't I?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many things out of that. I'm the same. I literally, if you ask me for my business card right now, I'm wearing an orange dress. I probably had 2 orange pieces in my entire wardrobe. But when I was doing that photo shoot, I made sure to wear an orange dress because I wanted my business card to stand out. So we get that. You've mentioned the board of advisors. You've mentioned being in these community is something that is a thread I continue to hear from women like you in your position. How do you leverage community? Because honestly and weirdly, not a lot of women are comfortable with it. As a matter of fact, you probably heard this. So you and I both know that I've been a longtime member of NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners. And within that organization since 20, I have just excelled in terms of my network, because when you have created those relationships, you don't even have to be in the room and people speak highly of you, right? So you get it, it's natural, it makes sense, but it was intentional. But one of the biggest criticisms I hear about organizations like the one I'm part of is that, oh, you all are cliquey, women are not nice to other women, and I am just mind blown. Have you heard that? And if so, how do you address that?
I have heard that, and it can be true. I don't think it's true among women any more than anyone else, any other group you want to put together, to be honest. I think we may be a little more likely to discuss, for you and I to have a candid conversation about something, but I don't think it occurs necessarily any more often. And I think one of the ways you can address and deal with that is to, for one, your confidence needs to tell you not everybody's going to like me. And I'm okay with everybody not liking me. There's a few people I don't like too. But I don't go out of my way to sabotage them, do anything to them. I simply prefer to always keep things professional and cordial and leave it at that. And I think becoming comfortable in the room is accepting that fact. And also then being able to know if she doesn't like me, she just doesn't like me. And that's okay. Not everybody has good taste.
1,000% agree. So I'm not a people person. So the fact that I can be in a room and connect with people is a miracle in and of itself. And so my response to naysayers of women's groups and how cliquey we are is find your people. I feel like the more authentic you are, the more opportunities there are to find the people that like you and that will support you and love on you. The other thing I think about is when it comes to groups like that, you have to get involved. Being a wallflower, it costs money every time we leave the house. So for me to go to an event, first of all, I have to put on makeup. It's not even something I love to do. I have to get my hair done.
Agreed.
I just complain about my raggedy ends and the fact that I can't get into my hairdresser. To do all these things, get in my car, gas in my car, put in something cute, and drive to a place. And I'm not going to get something out of it. I'm going to stand on the wall. That's crazy. So I'm going to try to find people, and I've got to get. So when it comes to groups, you have to get involved. Get on a committee. You don't like that committee, get on another committee. I had the best thing happen to me when I was a young person. I was asked to volunteer at church for the children's ministry. It was the best thing that happened to me because I realized I don't like children in a group setting. I don't like them.
Me neither. I love my own, but no.
And the ones around, but get me in a room full of young people that don't belong to me or my family, and I am done. And it was a great lesson because I had to go to the pastor of a big church and say, they don't want to be a part of this ministry. This is not this is not what God has me here for. And it was the best thing for me because now if I'm not in the room, if I'm not on the right committee, I'm not doing that. This is not good for me. can move on. So yeah, we just have to build up that confidence again, but also self-awareness. So
That
important.
part.
Yeah. Now, talking about kids, you've got two, and how old are
I
they now?
do. 11 and 9.
And your
Yes.
11-year-old, your daughter,
Uh,
she's a game changer. She's a gorgeous little beauty
mhm.
who's smart. And I remember in our pre-call, you were talking to me about this queen versus princess discussion you all had.
Oh, yes. Okay, I forgot about that. Yes. So one of the things, and she's actually said this to people, so I know that it has become ingrained in her as a lot of things. I've tried to make sure keep it simple and say it over and over. And one of the things I told her when she was very little, 2, 3 years old, as we're in the Disney phase and all of those things, is that you are not a princess. Princesses need to be saved from the tower by the white knight, but queens rule. And you, my dear, are a queen in training. And she will tell you this. Someone called her princess once and she said, "Oh no, I'm a queen in training." Thank you very much. That she's referred to herself as the CEO of the playground, for example, at 5. She loves to tell people, "Mommy had a podcast or a YouTube channel." She takes a great deal of pride in it. And I think the factor there is that my son, who's also wonderful, has a lot more role models to choose from that look like him than my daughter has, historically speaking. And so I have felt a need to be that role model for both of them to understand how you treat a lady. Ladies first, sir. I tell my son that. My daughter, letting her know that it's okay to fail. What went well, what didn't? Did you do your best? Leave it all on the court, right? That's really what it's about. And everybody makes mistakes. I apologize to them when I do, because I think that builds the character that they understand. They have the capability to do it themselves, and also to see me as human. I'm not omniscient. There does come that age where you realize your parents are human beings. And I wanted to help them to see that from the beginning, that if I can make mistakes, they can too, and apologize and move forward.
Yeah. Man, I need that. We need that. That needs to be everywhere. That's amazing. That's such a great
Maybe I need
foundation.
a t-shirt.
Yeah, you with that Azure. They're right there. It gave me chills, and I've heard it before. And you are living the example. So you spend X number of years in corporate America, and then some changes happen to you, and you make another big.
Mhm.
What is this latest transition for you? What are you doing now? How did you get here?
Oh boy. So the next transition, I'd say, which I'm still in it and maybe heading out of that phase and into the third, I guess, as you said before. So I'm a widow. My husband passed away in 2022 after a 2-year battle with cancer. That was very hard for me, for him, our families, respectively, all of those things. But I was committed to helping my children through it. And so there was a strong desire for it to not impact them more than it needed to, that we processed our grief, that we went to therapy, we did all the healthy things. But at the same time, I'll never forget, he was diagnosed. It was October 11th and Halloween was coming, right? I still had to buy costumes. I still had to buy candy. I still had to take photographs of them in their costumes. They were 3 and 5. Few years, my oldest, or a few weeks into kindergarten. And so there's no way to explain at that stage why all of the things weren't occurring, right? It kept me focused and more resilient. And there were days that it would go way down to here, but then you still had to make dinner. You still had to work on a craft at home to keep them occupied during COVID. So it really just taught me that the storm will come for everyone. I think it was Bill Cosby's wife. I'm trying to remember her name. Not that Cosby's the best person to mention, but one of the things she said is that everyone must walk through the fire. It is very true. It will happen if you live long enough, more than a few years. It's likely to happen. And so the question is, how do you manage it? What keeps you focused or driven even when times are tough? And also that you are thankful for at that same time. At least I still have these people, this relationship, these things this consistency, comfort. And so I think it's important to be grounded in that sense.
Yeah. So this transition happens for your
Mhm.
family,
Mhm.
and I believe you took some time to decide what your next step was going to be.
I
What did that
did.
look like?
So I had a couple of positions in between Advisa and my company now, Aszure Gray Consulting. And both of those were wonderful opportunities. And again, added to the foundation of what I already had. But I did make the decision actually about 13 months ago. So I just kind of celebrated my 1 year anniversary of Aszure Gray Consulting. And one of the things I decided to do was to write a book, Why Sales Hires Fail and What Founders Get Wrong Before Their First Hire Ever Starts. The reason for that was it's about transitioning from founder-led to team-led sales. So it's organizational growth. But even beyond that, just from that, not just from the technical side, but there's things that need to be in place that are often seen as people problems. And typically it's more of a clarity problem, or it's more of a process problem or a leadership problem. And when we start to break things down a little bit further and think about what's necessary in order for someone to be successful here in this environment, what's working well, what's missing, what I haven't thought about, because oftentimes those founders could get frustrated. It could be really expensive when you hire the wrong people, and it can just stunt the growth of the organization. And so when you're really thinking, how do I do that? There is some reflection that needs to be done on the systems, on the environment, the expectations that are set. Is the business ready? Are you ready? All of those things go into making it successful.
Love it. And it sounds like your wheelhouse. You talk about it in flow like someone is singing a song. So you're in your spot, and it
Yeah.
makes total sense based on your background.
Mhm.
So how are you living in this entrepreneurship piece now? Because I know we've operated as entrepreneurs within companies
Mhm.
when you're full time and every day is decided by you. What does that look like?
So, two key things here. One, remember that a coach needs a coach. So, regardless of the fact that I coach others, my most trusted advisor was my father. And right before he kind of headed into hospice and we knew that the end was imminent, I had hired and engaged a life coach.
Okay.
And she has taken some of that role, that heavy lifting for when this kind of thing happens, who do I talk to? And when the stakes are high, who do I talk to? And my father had always been that person. He had a consulting firm when I was young. We had a very similar path. Always said I was the son he never had. But then my coach has taken that on too. She is also someone who is an entrepreneur, a woman, spent time in corporate, still does part-time, does her thing, and is living the life that I'm still working and aspiring to. And that's a really important thing, to have someone that knows you personally and will be honest with you, because when the stakes are high, you don't need a yes man.
Yeah. So list down. So you've mentioned the board of advisors, you've mentioned a coach. What does your squad look like? I want to tell you I want to hear yours and I want you to hear mine. Who do you go to for what?
Oh boy, there are the strategic experts, right? And advisors. And so those are, I consider myself in that space. I'm thinking big picture. What do you think? I'll bounce that off a few people. Some of them are friends. Some of them are business connections. Some are both. There's all, and I never like to burn a bridge. So I always like to keep a relationship positive if any way possible, especially from a professional perspective, because you don't have as much emotional stuff involved in that. That's what I would say is part of it. And then another thing that I have in my squad, I think, are people I like to be around. It's not forced. It's authentic, as you said. So I'm not chasing you, hoping maybe Darice will make time for me, because if that's the case, then that's okay. It's not sales, right? And even then, you don't want the pushy sell me something. You want someone who's going to show you, here's the value of how this provides a solution to your problem, right? And relationships can very much be that for us in very specific ways of advice. Sometimes just listening, sometimes telling me, okay, you do not need to be making decisions today. You are not in the frame of mind. Let's just respond to the text message tomorrow.
Yeah.
And those are things that we all need people who can tell us that.
So you mentioned strategic, and there was some friendships in there, and I heard business connections. So mine are laid out in categories. So from the strategic perspective, I am a firm believer in iron sharpens iron. So yeah. So when I'm thinking about, and so there are two philosophies I rely on. Iron sharpens iron, and you don't ask a broke man how to be rich. And so I am extremely careful in who I bring to my little ecosystem. So when it comes to business decision I have to make as an entrepreneur, I'm going to typically reach out to entrepreneurs who have been in business longer than me, who are in different industries than me. I have a couple who have sold businesses, and that's where I'm going. So those are my highlights. And then I have peers who I will contact who are also at the same spot in terms of building. There's a gentleman who is just delightful, and he has expanded from our state into 3 other states. And I need to keep him around because he helps me and opportunity and growth. I have my siblings, so I'm one of 6. And when I tell you we are a tribe, that I can get on the phone with my younger brother, my youngest brother, the youngest of 6. We're all truth tellers. So you got to be careful too when you pick the phone. But I have people in my life who they know, Darice, that looks stupid, that sounds stupid, or they're also my biggest cheerleaders. They show up for everything in life. If I need to blow my nose, they'll be here. And then I have spiritual advisors as well as best friends, same best friends since 8th. And people position me in certain ways, but they all support. I don't have anybody in my life. As a matter of fact, I was at an event. I taught a workshop about a month ago, and you give your little background at the beginning so that when you start telling them what to do, it's credible. Not telling you been done. So I'm doing this financial workshop, and this woman stops me, and I could tell where she was about to go. She was like, but did you grow up with parents who loved you and supported you? And did you have people? And where she was going was, I want to give you all of my excuses for why I haven't done all of the things. And I stopped her because first of all, over my class. This is my class. And second of all, you get to make choices. And if your parents are not good for you, you get to choose who's in your space. So it's all choice, but it's so important. And I could not get out of the bed in the morning if I didn't have the group of people around me supporting me. So I figured you had a very strong squad. I'm curious about you going into sales consulting is a big girl panties type of space. And I know you and I know your lifestyle. So I know that you are not to work with it. So when
I'm not built what?
You're nice, inexpensive to work with. I'm sure. I don't even need to know, but I know. So
worth every penny. Not expensive, just worth every penny.
Believe that so much. But a lot of people who are going to listen to this, and I've coached so many, are brilliant. They're accomplished and they're underpaid. So I want to hear from you, like, when you came to, in terms of pricing your services, what did you lean on? I think you've already answered the question in which you just said, but like, how did you come up with your model in terms of what that exchange was going to look like?
What's interesting, because as I was thinking about prepping for this, an hour prep call and conversation, one of the things that I started practicing probably actually even long, maybe 10, 15 years ago, is self-distance. I have an alter ego. I eventually named her Zoe Washington. And she's what Sasha Fierce is to Beyonce, right? you notice you have a very different persona that you see when she's doing an interview versus how big she can be on stage. And it's not about becoming someone else. It's about distancing yourself from the emotional aspects and say, okay, what would I advise Zoe to do? What would I recommend my best friend do? So it helps you to use your wisdom, your intelligence, your experience without the emotional component in it. And you don't always have someone to call right before you go on stage for your keynote, right before you do your workshop, right before you're doing the podcast appearance, right? Whatever the case may be. And those various situations, that's why she was created initially, as I was getting ready to start doing training way back when. And it was a first for me. Where I leverage her now is to help with a lot of decision making. And she was created, I'll tell you this, I was asked by my coach at the time, who do you admire? Who do you want to embody? What do you see that you, and I said, quiet confidence. And Michelle Obama was the person I thought of. Obama was in office at the time, but there is no need to be a cyclone to come into the room and clear it or be the biggest or largest or loudest there, but to be confident and comfortable that I do have a right to be here. I do have something of value to share, to contribute, and to feel good in that. And when you are facing, back to the original question, how do I price this, right? Is this too much? And the concern that maybe you're an imposter, right? Imposter syndrome starts to creep in. And so you have to stop and think, okay, if I'm advising Reese in this, would I tell her, that's way too expensive? Absolutely not. And so it helps to create that little bit of distance that you can even do just for yourself. And I have found it to be invaluable.
That is so good. Now, in our pre-interview, there was something else you said that really just hit. You said that many business people are hiring people hoping that they'll solve problems that the business infrastructure hasn't solved yet. And I tease that out more. What do you see?
Well, that was really the catalyst for the book, thinking about the fact that there's you can think of it as you've got the iceberg and everything that's under the surface. All is this little bit, but it's definitely enough to sink the unsinkable ship. And so that's where you really have to stop and think about what lies under the surface. And sometimes you're in your own way. Oftentimes for businesses, if I build as an entrepreneur, I build a business, it's being built around me, around my skill sets, what I can do, what I can't do, what I enjoy doing, what I'm not very good at, but still have to do anyway until I can outsource this to someone else who's better, all of those things. And so it's built around this person. And now it has to evolve to where the person is a part of it, but there is a core that doesn't always rely completely on them. And so getting your business in that place, getting your mindset, yourself in that place, and the processes and systems that are actually consistent and laid out in a way that someone else has the ability to succeed within that structure. And that is almost always, I've experienced this personally from both sides of the coin, that is oftentimes why that hire does not work out. And business development is usually all on that founder in the beginning. And all of that muscle memory that they have built up has to be put into something that can be replicated, something that is consistent. You think of a decision tree. If yes, go this way. If no, go that way. And there has to be some type of transition where you pass down thought process, the why behind you think this is a great opportunity, why you think we should probably not pursue this one. It's not, what are you using, what wisdom in order to reach that decision so that you can help teach people that level of discernment is what has to be transferable and makes you successful, whether it's corporate or your small business with 5 people.
Yeah, I love that. So we are in the build wealth your way stratosphere. It's what I think about. It's what I sleep about. and you are a representation of ownership. What does ownership mean to you?
Buck stops here. I think one of the things you said earlier about excuses, right? I have a list. Personally, I think I got a great list of excuses if I wanted to use it. But what good's that going to do for me? It's not going to help me get where I want to go. It's okay to give yourself permission if you know what, I can't do it today. Today is just that kind of day. We all have those moments. I've had times where I've driven to something and said, no, I'm not going. It just doesn't feel right. I do not like to show up other than how I'd like to. And so sometimes you need to push a little bit, but if you're below this mark, you don't need to push. You need to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm just going to let that opportunity resurface at another time because I wouldn't be capable of embracing it today if it actually showed up. And rather than ruin it, I'd prefer to give it a little time. And so that's where some judgment and thinking of yourself as a human being and not a machine that needs to get it done.
Yeah.
Which I'm guilty of. It is a self-management ongoing process.
Yes, it's grace. I didn't even know what grace meant outside of Sunday mornings. I became an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what it meant. So now I totally get it. All right. I'm going to do a rapid fire with you, Miss Aszure, and I can think on your feet. So I'm going to start a phrase and you finish the phrase. All right. There's only 4. First one.
Okay.
Confidence comes from what?
Confidence comes from within. You can never let someone else steal your confidence. And that was something that I was taught a long time ago. And that is what has helped me to say, okay, so that means I need to work on this. What do I need to do? What's the next step? Do not ever let anyone steal your confidence. It comes from within.
Right. Good. The biggest mistake ambitious women make with money is what?
Not saving. So I'd say, I think oftentimes we can become focused on, and part of it, bringing all of those things, pay it off. You need to be comfortable carrying a certain amount of debt, determine what that is for you, not for anyone else to decide. Or maybe you should talk to one of your technical advisors and see what they say. So and I do that. That's one of the ways that I think that you focus too much on paying off the credit cards, but then you actually don't have the money when the catastrophe hits. And so you end up using it again, and it can be a cycle. So I think one of the important things is to make sure that you've got what you need to accomplish the absolute necessities, no matter what.
Good. If you could teach every woman one thing about wealth, it would be what?
Create your own. Create your own. That would be absolutely the one thing. I was not really raised to think that I was going to become an entrepreneur. But I was also never discouraged from it either. And so I was given pretty much a kind of a neutral playing field. And when I had questions or I was curious about things, I had places to go with it and I could get answers. And so having mentors, people in your life, not everybody's mom or dad can be that person, right? Or maybe they just don't have any experience in business or corporate America. And instead, I do landscaping. Okay. But to keep in mind that it's really about being able to take care of yourself. You don't necessarily always have to if you're lucky, but not having the skill to do that is not something that I would encourage my daughter to do, nor my son. That is something that I believe people in general need, because then you can be places because you want to be, not because you have to.
Amen. Amen. Last one. Legacy means what?
Legacy means the imprint, the positive or negative, hopefully positive imprint and impact that I leave on the earth after I'm here. And it doesn't, for some of us, that may mean it needs to be, I accomplish things that get me a monument or a new public library, right? Named after me, or event center. That's ambitious and it's a wonderful thing. And keeping in mind the bell curve, most people are average. Most of us are not that absolute genius level. So thinking in terms of for myself, what do I want people to think, see, and feel once I'm gone? What when they think of a memory of me, do they smile and laugh? Right? Do they tell a story about, oh my goodness, she had this queen and princess thing? I want people to remember me in the way that I authentically am, good, bad, and otherwise. But I want to leave a positive imprint and an impact on those around me.
Absolutely. All right. So imagine a woman is listening right now, and the theme of our season, as I mentioned, is your first $1 million. She's successful, she's respected, she's carrying everyone else, but privately she's wondering if she's capable of building something bigger. What's one thing you'd want her to remember when this episode ends?
The key takeaway I think that I would want her to have is to ask herself, do I want this? Because we tend to put a lot more energy and effort into something that we want. So now that I have established I want it, that's when I need to engage other trusted advisors, strategic, technical, professional. If you can afford a coach, get one. If you can't afford to pay one, see who would be willing to mentor you and just let's meet for coffee at Starbucks once a month. I think that it's important to not feel that you're doing it alone, that the most successful people do not succeed. They succeed by having support systems, expertise around them. And so surround yourself with those people, and those relationships build over time. Some of them, there's an instant click like we had, and others, it takes some time. And you may find your new boss, your coworker, even a family friend, that people can provide that, but you have to be on the lookout for it too.
Intentional.
And don't let anyone steal your confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So good. You know what? Principle 10 in the Build Wealth Your Way universe is that wealth favors the action takers. You, Aszure, exemplify this. So thank you so much for being here. I want to find out what's happening with this book. When is it going to be released? What should people do to connect with you? What does it look like? Yes.
So the book itself, the physical hardback copy and the ebook will be available week of July. So we are in the final home stretch with that. So you can find the book on my website, AzureGrayConsulting.com. I won't bother because I know you'll need help with spelling it. So I'll let Darice provide you the link and the website itself. Or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and send me a DM and mention the podcast, because I can provide you access to the book as well as a free consultation if you mention the podcast. So anyone who's out there in that space, whether you need a copy of the book, you just want to see whether or not I can be helpful to you in a conversation, a free consultation, or even thinking about where you want to go next and having someone else on your personal board of advisors.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Any last words or final thoughts? Anything that you wish we had talked about, Miss Aszure Gray?
I think we covered all the things. I would just want to say thank you again for having me here. I think very highly of you. And so the fact that you feel the same means a lot to me. I do not in any way, shape, or form take that for granted. And those are key relationships to have. So nurture them, seek them out, and be that to someone else as well.
Yes. Hey, thank you so much. You are fabulous. And I'll make sure all of your links are available. And I need to get a copy of the book. I would love to write something and get it out there and help you with that. So thank you.
You are on the list for the lunch party.
Good. And that's a wrap on this episode of Money, Legacy, and Her. I hope you're walking away with the insight and the fire you need to take your next bold step. Because when women build wealth, we shift generations. If this episode spoke to you, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more women find this movement. Want more? Head to moneylegacypodcast.com to get connected and grab tools to support your legacy journey. This is Darice Rene signing off. Stay focused, stay powerful, and keep making money moves with purpose.